Okay, Ajahns here. Most of us are here. Some of the Vietnamese friends who went to lunch will be a bit late. So I think we can start now. Ready, Kun Em? Yes. So yesterday, Maeve was having a discussion with you, Ajahn, and then she lost her internet transmission. So I think the discussion at the point where it was she left was on the topic of calmness and samatha, and she mentioned meditation, but in quotation marks, and there was some mention about practice, and I think Ajahn was just beginning to ask you some questions, so I'll let you carry on.
In order to understand the reality as of self, there should be a little more considering about the characteristic of each reality. For example, calmness. Usually, we think that it's wholesome or unwholesome. Normal people, everyone. What?
I think we usually consider it to be desirable because I think at a conventional level, people often associate someone who is calm or can calm other people down. It means that there is not as much unpleasant feeling, that maybe there are fewer arguments or that sort of thing. So conventionally, I think there's that idea that it's a desirable way to be. I think from a Buddhist perspective, we see it differently, and it depends on whether the calmness arises with kusala or not.
Without understanding, one takes it, which is akusala, to be kusala. That which is not calm, they use or they think that it's calm, right? But in the Buddha's teaching, calm is the reality which is sopana, wholesome. At that moment, without loba, dosa, and moha. Otherwise, it's not calm. Usually, one might think that without loba and dosa, it's calm. But actually, what about that moment? It's not calm at all because it is moha, not understanding the truth of that very moment, and take it that when nothing appears as usual, then it's calm. But in truth, what is there is not known. So what is there is ignorance. With uddhacca, restlessness, it's not calm at all. That's why learn to understand the calm, which in truth it is a wholesome cetasika.
It is only Panya that can know that definitely, though, isn't it?
I think that we learn to understand the word about calm and lopa and dosa, but as long as its nature does not appear to be known, it's impossible. Like citta, say, we talk about it. We think that it's so familiar, everyone knows. But what is citta right now? What appears is only that which is experienced by citta, but the citta, who knows? Not at all. And at moment of not understanding the characteristic of citta, it's not calm.
Actually, Ajahn, after because our conversation was abbreviated, I found myself thinking about, because you asked me what was the Pali for calm, and I honestly couldn't I couldn't remember. And then you said passaddhi. And later, so then there was certainly no calmness at that moment as I was trying to remember. And I actually later was reflecting on that, and my accumulations to remember Pali are not very good, are not very strong.
Me too.
So, but at the same time, I am very interested in following your description of what is happening, etc., about mental factors. And so I have instead of worrying so much about the label, about the name, I find it helpful to think about function of, say, the function of calmness. What is it that calmness actually does? And that is by way of building an understanding that instead of thinking about I am calm, thinking about that there is this mental factor that actually conditions calmness when it arises, and that there are so many mental factors that are doing what it is easy to think of as I'm doing, but in fact I'm not doing it. That the function is performed by a whole range of chitta and jeta seekers. So by focusing on the function as opposed to the label, I mean, I would like to know the label, but if that's not part of what is, the conditions, then finding another way that is useful to understand conditionality, it's just, I suppose, a bit of a solution to a poor memory. Does that make sense?
I think often what is taken for calm is not calm, as Ajahn said, when it seems very peaceful and tranquil and we're having a pleasant walk and there's no concern or agitation, it seems calm, but the subtle attachment and ignorance is usually there. One way to consider it is that if at this moment there's no giving, no generosity of any kind, if there is no metta, no kindness or concern for others or respect or other kusala qualities, and if there is no understanding now, then there's no calm. So that is most of the day. So most of the day there is the hidden ignorance, the hidden attachment, and at all those moments, even when it seems so tranquil walking along the beach, actually, as Ajahn mentioned, there is restlessness, udacha, at those moments, but it doesn't appear. But for sure, if it seems calm, then what kind of kusala is it? Is there any giving? Is there any metta? Or is there any understanding? If not, then no calm at all. So it's not as common as we think, like when someone speaks angrily and we don't react and we stay calm, or when I swim in the waves and it seems I stay very calm. But actually the subtle attachment, the subtle ignorance is there because there's no kindness at those moments, there's no giving. Is there any understanding? If not, where is the calm?
And so it's actually, I suppose what I was getting at, Sarah, was it's quite useful to focus on the function of the mental factor, because that's just at a level of intellectual understanding. That is about it not being my calmness or something that I've done, like have a nice walk or whatever, that it's the mental factor that has arisen that has conditioned whatever degree of calmness might be there.
Appreciating when it arises and that it is just for a moment, like at a moment of, when discussing the Dhamma, moments of understanding, calm is there. Moments of clinging or moments of boredom, no calm at all. So it's not about any situation. It's about a momentary mental factor that arises with moments of goodness, any kind of goodness. And I think there can be a little more understanding, like at a moment of kindness, no disturbance at all at that moment, or moment of truly appreciating or considering that the world is just what is visible now, nothing else in it. At the moment of wise consideration or understanding, it is calm at that moment, but it's just for a moment and then gone. And it's, like you say, it's just a Dhamma. If there's any clinging to it or wishing to experience it again, no calm.
Mm. That's why I found the I couldn't join the Zoom earlier, but I did listen to it, and I found the discussion around intellectual understanding very helpful, in terms of I suppose just how subtle intellectual understanding is too. I mean, we certainly acknowledge that understanding the Dhamma, but we think in terms of the deep Dhamma. But even at the very beginning, there's such subtlety there. Sometimes we use intellectual understanding as a bit of a throwaway line, but in fact,
it's very valuable, and there's calmness with the intellectual understanding, of course, but it may not be recognized as such. But I think it's helpful to keep in mind that the conventional notion of calmness is not going to be kusala, and that in addition, of course, we need to keep in mind that the path the Buddha taught is about understanding what is appearing. And I think the attraction of calmness is like wanting any other kind of kusala, wanting to have more metta or wanting to be more generous and that sort of thing. It's we tend to latch on to the notion of calmness, and for some people it's even a source of wrong practice, because they think that not reacting to external stimuli, like not getting angry, not getting too excited and all that sort of thing, is indicative of a level of kusala. But it's not. It's just a different kind of kusala that's happening at those times, because there's the suppression of the stronger reaction, because one believes that it's better to keep calm, and that's a mistake, of course. So the calmness may or may not appear. When there's kusala, there's calmness, but it may or may not appear. It probably doesn't at this stage, but it may, depending on one's accumulations, of course. So it should just be like anything else. If it appears, it can be known. If it doesn't, then it doesn't matter.
at moment of kusala, it's calm, right? And then the moment when we say it's calm, is it calm? See, very, very subtle, because it arises and falls away in split seconds. So even that moment, it is kusala, understanding. No need to say anything about calmness. But at moment when we change from that into thinking about it, is it calm? Who knows?
Mm.
That's why we talk about different realities, just to have understanding of the truth of no one and no thing. The more we learn about cetasikas and citta, rupa, it is moment of letting go, very little of that which is taken for I or thing, gradually, very subtle. For example, like we just said, it's calm, all right. But when the moment when we say it's calm, is it calm at that moment? Depends.
It's calm, it's kusala, it's metta, it's all the same kind of clinging to what is happening at the present moment.
Being pleased about it, glad that there's calm, glad that I didn't react. The clinging is there, clinging to self all the time, wishing to be calm, liking to have more calm, thinking of the appearance or situation, clinging most of the time when thinking about it.
And when we use just simple word, do good, is it calm away from akusala at moment of doing good? See, we don't have to use the word calm, but it's calm. So if we try to find out the moment of calmness, it's moment of kusala, but at that moment, whether it appears or not, to be known. The characteristic, which is that cetasika, pasati, and citta pasati, to calm down the citta, which is akusala, and kaya pasati, calm the cetasikas which arise with it. All in a moment of wholesome moment. That's why in order to know this moment, whether it is kusala or akusala, it's just thinking about it. As long as the characteristic of that which experiences the object, not anyone is there, to have more precise of the truth of the characteristic, which no shape, no form, but now experiences an object by different aspects, different cetasikas, different functions. That's why learn about the truth to understand it. And it depends on the understanding how much it develops to the degree that it can directly understand the object as it is, the object which can be known. Otherwise, it's something when it's not known as it is. Is this calm, this moment, understanding, see, it's calm. So just learn about what are there in a moment from life to life, from moment to moment, to understand the difference between kusala and akusala and any mental factor which is there appearing to be known. For example, now, what cetasika is there to be known? Not any, right? It can be at dosa, but when dosa is not there, it can be lopa or moha. Very, very fast, arising and falling away. Just learn to understand in order that it cannot be taken for anything. What is it? The reality now experiences an object. And what is the chief? The chitta. While the cetasika, the wholesome cetasika, does not appear, but chitta is there now. Not cetasika. That's why that which experiences whatever is there now appearing is a reality. The master of the world.
And one cannot tell from the appearance at all, just like so difficult to know now whether there's calm or not, but someone may fall over or drop the glass. Who knows whether there are moments of understanding of calm or not? Impossible to know from the outer appearance at all. And at a moment of kindness, there's no thought about whether calmness is there, but actually it's there. But who knows? It depends on conditions, whether the characteristic appears or not, but not by wishing or wanting.
And I think that that's one of the hindrances, that there is a preference for what awareness will be aware of. Not so much what arises, but what one would prefer to arise, to be aware of.
That's the big hindrance, because it is the idea of I behind it, thinking it should be this or that, or there should be more knowing of calmness, not understanding that dhammas are anatta. So depends on conditions when awareness arises and what the object is, unexpectedly always.
And the progression from that, I suppose, is coming back to being attached to pleasant feeling.
So much clinging to self. So deep, very, very deep rooted. On our way to lunch, we had a bit of chat following the discussion this morning, that when we're concerned about the other and their behavior or their thinking, like the discussion we had earlier, actually it's wrong view behind it, because there is the idea of the other and changing behavior. It's not the understanding of Dhamma. So the clinging to the idea of self is very deep rooted. When there's an idea, there should be understanding of calm now, or there should be more kindness or less disturbance. It's all clinging to the idea of self, but wrong understanding.
And also when there is the idea of some things being that we would prefer there to be awareness of in preference to others. In addition to what Sarah said, there's also a lack of appreciation that it's awareness of any Dhamma that is important, and there's not some that are more worthwhile having awareness of than others. So even ordinary old seeing invisible object, for example, because it's all these are taken for self in different ways and to different degrees. And it's the awareness and understanding of them that helps to overcome wrong view. And it's immaterial what the particular reality is, because it's all about accumulating that right understanding that eliminates wrong view.
Mm. Yes, thank you.
Is there any doubt now? See, we talk about doubt, we talk about many realities, but is that doubt now is not known.
Mm.
A lot of doubt
Yeah,
about Gita.
as long as it does not appear as doubt a reality, it cannot be known. It's gone. And we talk about it. That's right. When there's more understanding of any reality, anatta, by condition, its moment of directly understanding what is there as it is. Not the one that we are talking about, because that's gone.
Mm.
But without understanding about the truth of each reality, even it's there, how can it be known? Just like now, many realities are there now. They're not known yet as it is, as long as just one reality appears as the object of doubt, of understanding, or of attachment. For example, feeling, see, pleasant feeling is so pleasant, but who knows that it's just a moment.
Mm.
And when it's not there appearing, it's gone, never to return. So there can be any understanding of whatever is now when it appears to right understanding.
Mm. And actually, thank you, Adam, because doubt is one of those things that it's like, don't want to have doubt. And yet, what you've just said is that when doubt arises, it's a good opportunity to understand about that particular reality. And so that maybe that thinking is so very useful, as opposed to, oh, don't want to have doubt, want to be confident, all the rest of it. But doubt is there to be known. Mm.
And if it's not known when it appears, it can never, ever be eradicated.
Yeah.
Same with wrong view or any of these realities. If they're not known when they appear, like now, then no end.
Mm. Mm.
You were waiting a long time for the discussion to start. Anything you would like to bring up today?
I have doubt about Gita. Because Ajahn often says in Thai, Gita, Wu Cheng Aram. But what is that Wu Cheng? What does Gita know? Because I know, even when not mentioning it or the names, it is known that tasting cheese is not the same as tasting something sweet. But that is already thinking. That's not yet tasting, I believe, because tasting is gone already. Doubt is gone already. So I have many doubts, and when they're all gone, I have usually a conventional idea of doubt.
When we saying that doubt in in Dhamma is Vichikicha, is doubt whether the teaching is true or not, and all that. Whether you have doubt in that there might be something else. This is not right, and that. But like when we say conventionally, let's say that we have doubt in 4 plus 5. That is not the Vichikicha. So there is conventional also, and a doubt in reality also.
And the point about taste is at the moment of tasting what is tasted, no matter whether it's sweet or sour or spicy or plain, it's just taste, it's just flavor. So at the moment of understanding taste, when it appears, no matter what the taste is, it doesn't matter. It still tastes just as it is. No doubt at that moment. But afterwards, if the understanding is not firm enough, there may be doubt. But doubt is another reality, and it's just a Dhamma, and it passes. So the only way that there will be less doubt is more understanding right now, more confidence that what is the truth at this moment. Sound now, no matter whether it's high-pitched or low-pitched or loud or soft, it's just sound. There can be understanding of sound even now as we chat. And this is the way gradually there be less doubt. But no matter whether it's sound that appears or doubt, it's just Dhamma. It's not my sound or my doubt. Gone instantly. And thinking about the taste that's gone can never know it, just like thinking about the doubt that's gone can't be known, but only when it appears now. Is there any doubt right now?
Very good reminders, yes.
And does anyone here in the room, Dream or Tin, have anything you'd like to ask?
I have a question about roots, hetu. Why is it only 3, Lopa, Moha, and Dosa? And what is root?
3 unwholesome roots.
Yes,
and 3
unwholesome.
wholesome roots. So
Right.
3 unwholesome roots, because whenever any akusala arises of any kind, it must have moha. There's always ignorance whenever akusala arises. When there's clinging, attachment is there. So attachment and moha, 2 roots. When there's aversion or anger, like we were discussing the other day, dosa is there and moha is there as roots. But when it's doubt, no lobha, no dosa, just doubt at that moment. And there can be doubt, there can be ignorance without doubt as well. So all akusala has to have at least one of these roots. And it's a root condition, so it conditions the other akusala cetasikas and chitas. When moha arises, it's a condition for all the other akusala cetasikas and for the chitta to be unwholesome at that moment.
So the three unwholesome roots it's always there to condition other unwholesome Cetasika, right?
So as I think you know, there are many different conditions. We call them pachya. And the first pachya that is usually mentioned is hetu pachya, root condition. So for all akusala, it's like the roots of a plant. There have to be those one or two akusala factors as roots for all the other kusala to arise, just as the wholesome roots, alobha, adosa, and panya, there has to always be alobha and adosa, and it depends whether there is panya as well. So those are the wholesome roots for kusala chitas to arise.
Thank you. And I also have one more question, if that's okay. I have question about metta. Like, my current understanding is that it's understanding other beings, and that's all I know. That's like, but
Now, if there is friendliness or kindness, what is the object? What is the friendliness to? What is the kindness to?
to others.
To others, yes. So the object of the 4 Brahma Viharas, metta, karuna, mudita, and equanimity, which upekkha that we discussed yesterday, the object is always other beings. And even when there's the understanding that in truth there are no other beings, it is to what is called or taken for other beings, the other chitas and cetasikas. When there's metta, one would like the other to be happy, and one considers the needs and welfare. There's friendliness, kindness, no thought about one's own embarrassment, or no mana about this or that issue or what others will think of one. So mana is like the opposite of metta. When there's metta, no thought of oneself or one's image at all.
So it has concept as its object.
Concept as object, yes,
but
exactly.
not sound, not visible object.
It's
But
it's a concept of being other
Being,
beings, yes. Like even for the Buddha, when there's great metta, at those moments, the object is others' welfare, the chitas and cetasikas that are taken, or which we call in shorthand beings, even though there are no beings.
This morning on mana, or was it yesterday? The idea of a being doesn't have to involve wrong view. Some people have a problem with the fact that the object of metta is a being because they think it must mean wrong view, but that's not correct. In fact, there can't be wrong view with metta because it's kusala. But even the being, the Sotapanna who has no more wrong view, still has the idea of different beings like oneself and others, but no misconception about the fact that what we take for a being is just conditioned dhammas.
Yes. I mean, we know from studying that there are only Dhamma, Paramathamma, Dhamma, that actually there no being, no any person. But then when we sing metta and we sing that metta to other like living being, is conventionally we saying that that person, all that, but it's all referred to Paramathamma, just all there.
and when we are like we are being harmed by others, can there be metta at that moment?
When you say can there be, do you mean is there likely to be, or is it actually possible theoretically for there? See, the person who has eradicated all akusala would still have metta towards the being who is causing him harm. And I think it says in the suttas, you know, even if someone is tearing your limbs from the body, the person who has eradicated all akusala cannot have unwholesome thoughts towards that other being.
And what about the beings that hasn't eradicated akusala?
Well, it's a case of the extent to which kusala has been developed, and akusala has been. It's a case of the relative strength of kusala versus accumulations versus akusala accumulations. We can't say, but for us, it's unlikely that there could ever be really. But actually, there can be different ways of being harmed. A person can be harming us in different ways. So someone who is, for example, calling us names or whatever, it's possible to think, well, that poor fellow, you know, he's got no control of his speech, and so there can be, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Truth, what harms one now? So, for example, if someone calls you names now, what is the actual harm at this moment? What is heard at that time, or what is heard now? So what causes the harm?
The mental, the citta, cetasika.
The thinking with dosa,
Yes.
clinging to oneself, mana. Why is he speaking to me like this? So it's actually the harming is from the akusala, with those unwholesome roots we just mentioned. Even if one is struck on the head, the bodily experience, it's a result of karma in truth. So all the problems come back to the akusala roots and tendencies we've discussed. We think of the other, we think of their behavior, but as we discussed this morning, what is thinking about the other's behavior, and is it right view or wrong view when we think about the other's behavior and how they should behave better or in a different way, actually clinging to the idea of self, someone, not understanding dhammas that are conditioned. So whatever the topic, it comes back to understanding at this moment.
Right.
And it's so beneficial. It doesn't mean one won't get angry. It doesn't mean one won't react, but deep down, there can be the considering about what the truth is now or at any time.
Thank you.
Be kind.
To others.
You mean animal? Cat and dog?
Yeah, and people,
All beings.
beings, any beings with consciousness.
And what do you do?
Cannot do anything.
And at moment of giving, is it because of kindness?
Not all the time. Not all the time.
Not all the time.
Because sometimes it's from
There's no kindness when giving. Is it really giving?
no, probably not.
Is there really a lobha and a dosa there? No.
Right.
So we're not talking about the situation, but the citta, when there is actual giving with kusala cittas, kindness must be there.
I think the question that Ajahn asked, what will you do when there's metta towards another being, is a good one to consider, because I think many people have the idea that having metta towards another being means being overtly friendly or something towards them and showing calmness and I don't know what. But it's not at all, of course. It's just the mental state. And another person may not know whether one has metta or not. It's not something that one needs to feel the need to show that is there. It's like we were saying earlier, as soon as one thinks having metta, showing metta, sending good vibes or whatever, it's the wrong kind of thinking. And anyway, metta is only going to be momentary. I mean, of course, it not just one moment, but it may only be part of the story. It may be there arising intermingled with other unwholesome characteristics.
And earlier we were talking with Maeve about calm. So moments of giving when there's true kindness, being glad for the good wishes or the good feelings of others, no thought of oneself, no expectation. At those moments, the citta is calm, but all the moments of clinging to the gift or hoping it's appreciated or worrying about whether it's the right gift or expectations, conventionally we may call it all part of the giving, but no calm at those moments. So the giving itself is just momentary.
It's hard to have metta to a mouse for me. Worm is easier.
Or by accumulations. And isn't it also because we take so much attachment for metta, so the insects that we like, we think there's metta, but usually more attachment than anything. Like yesterday, I saw a giant lizard, so much attachment, maybe some moments of metta, but mostly attachment.
Well, the mouse that's being held in the jaws of a cat, you could have compassion for that mouse.
You said so.
And what about mercy killing?
What about killing? Controversial issue, Ajahn. Story.
I have heard that like if your parents are in hospitals and taking the breathing, right, and all that, and he's struggling, you tell the doctor to remove, right? You are still killing them, but not mercy killing. I'm not sure about this part. I have heard.
No mercy killing at all.
So it's
Is killing.
Contradiction in terms.
No compassionate killing or metta killing or
but you want them not
karuna killing.
but you don't want them to struggle.
I don't want, so dosa is there conditioning the killing because I don't want them to struggle.
And in truth, can you kill anyone?
What is the cause of chitta, death? Could you use them? The cause of, what is the cause of death of chitta?
Karma.
Come.
Just going back to your example of the relative in hospital, I think just giving permission for life support to be removed could not be considered killing. Well, you're not doing it anyway, but you're asked if you give your permission for it to happen. It's not the same as having an intention to cause the end of a person's life. Well, of course, the person's going to die, yeah, and you wouldn't give permission if you thought there was any possibility of survival. But there are cases where there is no prospect of any longer term survival. So I'm just expressing a personal view here, but I think the giving of permission, because taking a life has to have the intention of bringing the life to an end.
Yes, yes.
And there's no such necessarily any such intention when you give permission for the life support to be removed. If it's someone else, if it's the medical staff who are asking for that permission.
Okay, thank you.
So what is killing?
Killing is those are yes. Yes. Killing intention. Yeah. Intention whether to kill or not.
It has to be the particular intention for the other being to die, and there has to be the act to lead to that other being dying. Not just thinking about it in one's dream, but there has to be not only the intention, but the acting upon them. And there has to be the death of the other being.
So John, in that example, for example, the one who get the permission, it doesn't have enough all of the factors, right? Because they're not doing that, have that action, and vice versa. The nurse, for example, who did that action, but then there's no intention. So then that's also not accomplished under karma. Okay.
I remember once in Vietnam, our friend Sao asked Ajahn about taking his dog to the doctor to have its fleas removed and to take medicine. And what about the akusala karma and so on? But the intention is just to help the dog, and taking it to the doctor, one's not asking for any killing to take place. So it all comes back to the intention. Or when someone comes to spray the foundation to keep the bugs away, the intention is just to keep the place clean. The intention is not to kill. If some bugs die, that is the result of karma, but that's not what the intention when one ask someone to come and treat the center. So it all comes back to the intention at each moment.
I still have a bit of difficulty with the permission to withdraw life support. What is the intention there? Because the result is likely going to be death, although which is juti-citta, which is the result of kamma. But still, person is taking an action or consenting to an action being taken. And the very, very likely result is death.
Just a general comment, Anne. Firstly, that doing an act and knowing that as a result of that act, some beings are going to die doesn't necessarily involve the intention to bring the, life to an end for those beings.
It could.
It could, but it doesn't necessarily,
Okay.
is the point. And just one more point. In the medical situation we're discussing, it's someone else's initiative. The medical staff have come to the point that,
That's true.
you know, there's nothing else to be done, and maybe it's gone on for so long and this, that, and the other. So if they were to ask permission, you would, well, it's for the individual to decide whether they're comfortable with that or not. But
Yes.
just from the point of view of or what killing is, then giving the consent, because as a relative, they require their next of kin's consent before taking any such action. Again, it doesn't necessarily involve any intention of wanting to end the life of that close relative, even though it's pretty clear that without life support, it won't last that much longer.
And in all, well, you don't know, but there's the possibility is there, I think, that the person who's consenting doesn't want that life to end either. However, under the circumstances, I can see how you can.
A long time ago, we discussed the example, and it could be in Ukraine or anywhere, about the plane dropping a bomb and the person rolling out the bomb. But for that person, they're following orders and doing what they're told to do and dropping the bomb. They know a lot of people are likely to be killed, but their intention may not be for that at all. Their intention is just following the orders, doing what they're told. And what happens, who dies, who is injured, who maybe no one is injured because it may be misplaced, all down to karma and other conditions. So it always comes back to this moment. It's not about, oh, well, this is likely to be the result of this and this and this happens. But what about the intention at the moment? Like when setting a trap to catch a mouse. Maybe one's intention is not to kill it, but one would like to catch it so one can take it outside. Maybe there's a chance that it will die, it will get caught in the trap, but that is not the intention at that time. So it just depends on the intention now.
Right, the intention at the moment. I see. Okay, thank you.
Yes, somehow I can understand and it's understandable, but it's hard to imagine. Like, for example, also in the case of Intl.Dhamma, who prepare like the arrows for her husband to go hunting, because we know for sure that maybe the animals or some beings will be died, or even like your example about the bombing. Because except if we put in that position, we will not do that. But still,
maybe no choice. Maybe there's a gun at his head, and but it is like that example. Even like you say, the lady knows many animals will die from those arrows, but the intention is just to assist her husband, not to kill the animals. It's the same. So it's not the appearance, how it seems.
And you cannot guess about other cheetahs.
So I want to back a little bit about Jonathan's example when the rat is in the mouth of the cat. Is metta or maybe karuna?
Presumably that would be karuna, but it's kusala citta anyway.
It's karuna. Is there metta? At the same time, yes. When there's kusala, thinking about the welfare of others, then metta is there.
So could you have to elaborate more about the four vihara citta? Is it?
So metta is most common for most people because opportunities all day to be friendly to the insects, to the beings on the street, to the cats, the dogs, to the staff in the restaurant, anyone. But for karuna, it's just when there is the perceived suffering of the other. So at that moment, when there is compassion, the opposite of feeling sorry for the other, and the opposite of attachment when there's attachment to the other being. But metta is there at that moment of kindness, compassion. And mudita is when there's joy in the other's good fortune, like we talked about mana. When there's mana, no mudita, no gladness for the other's good fortune. Like for those at home, it's a gladness for those who are here, able to listen live, or is one glad for the others who have these opportunities. So mudita is a wonderful quality when one's genuinely glad for others' welfare, for others' understanding of Dhamma in particular, not thinking about oneself. So all of these Brahma Viharas are the opposite of thinking of oneself, minding what others think, being embarrassed, having mana, all these qualities. So genuinely glad for the others' good fortune. And the last one, upekkha, I think we discussed yesterday, the equanimity, like one's relative is on life support in hospital, nothing can be done. Is there equanimity, or is one crying at that moment? So when there's more appreciation that what occurs is a result of karma, the death that comes as a result of karma, more acceptance, more equanimity, ever comes in life is by conditions. So it's the understanding that conditions more equanimity.
So when we talk about mudita, it is rejoicing in others' welfare. So we can understand very clearly when it is doing good deeds, and then we say anumodana, for example, or even when people have like successes, early successes, like getting a good job or something like that. I think that we can also understand. But what about the case like someone who is addicted to drugs, for example? I know that some mothers, for example, cannot stand that the child doesn't get what he wants because he suffers when he doesn't get the drugs that he needs, for example. Can there be any mudita in that case, like when he gets the drugs that he so long for?
There could be appreciating the unwholesomeness of the act, but at the same time, it's not rejoicing in the gain exactly, but I'm trying to say there are different moments. So there could be, I suppose if it's a close relationship, then it's going to be attachment rather than mudita. But let's say for a person not closely connected to that individual, then they'd be unlikely to be the same sense of relief. But I'm not sure whether your question is, you gave the example of the mother and child. So in that case, then it's going to be attachment rather than mudita anyway.
Sick, and then suddenly they're well and one's so happy that now there's pleasant feeling instead of unpleasant feeling, but mostly it's attachment. There may be some gladness, some metta, but also when it's a close family member, so much attachment.
But I think there's sort of dealing with when one has anger towards other beings, and this is a special sort of case, I suppose, but there are different aspects of that other being that one can reflect on, good qualities, or I forget what the others are given, but it's clear that there can be, a being can be considered in many different ways: the pleasant appearance, pleasant manner of speech, good qualities, etc. Deeds done in the past.
And does it appear now? Is there mudita now? Because if otherwise one's just speculating about that situation, but anything can arise any time. But what about now? Is it known now?
Yes, I want to talk that before, if we didn't hear Dhamma, we would not know that love and all that are just lobha, and they are all selfish, like a love of mother to child and or attachment. We love that person so much and all that, and we seems like we're doing everything for him and all that. But then when we know that Dhamma, we know that metta is a kindness, is true kindness. All akusala are selfish. The more love, the more selfish. The more you see, like when we love our relative and when they pass away, how much sorrow and all that, because it's come from attachment only. So everybody, all akusala, not all are selfish. True kusala metta are true kindness that thinks about other. Akusala does not think about other. They don't about welfare of the other, are just also for oneself and selfish.
Pleasant feeling with karuna. Yes. Sure. Possible. Otherwise, what kind of feeling? Feeling.
Definitely cannot be unpleasant feeling for sure. Must be usually pleasant feeling, can be neutral, but usually pleasant feeling.
And when it's not pleasant or indifferent feeling, what kind of feeling is there? And what kind of citta is there? Not karuna. Mm-hmm. Some people think that at moment of having karuna, they have to cry and so on, but that's wrong.
No understanding of karuna at all. No. Any feeling sad or sorrowful, no karuna.
How to say, but it seems that some people who have the tendency to sympathize with others, maybe even in the way they cry or they feel like sorry, it's really not karuna, but seems that it's closer to karuna and it's better than nothing. Yeah, maybe, yes, maybe.
Definitely all those moments of feeling so sad and sorrowful and so concerned. It's all dosa, like when one's concerned about someone's appearance or concerned someone's sick and one's worrying or feels sorrowful. Just dosa, no karuna at those moments, however close it seems. And it's no kindness, like if one visits someone who's sick and one's feeling sad and sorrowful, it doesn't help the other one. It's just the clinging to one's own pleasant feeling that's been lost, one's own unpleasant feeling.
So when traveling in certain countries, which I shan't name, but where there are lots of beggars and pitiful looking dogs are running around the street, and some people have what you just described, but they have a lot of empathy for all that suffering, but it's not kusala at all. It's just a feeling of dosa.
And to mistake that for good is wrong understanding.
So concerned and agitated about the plight of the dogs and so upset that nothing's being done to look after them. And it seems that they're the ones who are close to the dogs, but actually it's just a matter of having more dosa, a more unpleasant feeling, thinking about the dogs.
We're discussing, I think yesterday, this is where the feeling of, I forget what you call it, the fourth of the equanimity is appropriate. You can't help that situation, especially when you're in a bus that's going through and they're outside and that sort of thing. So there's no point in having these strong emotions. But of course they're a condition, and I do understand that, but not to be mistaken for wholesomeness. I come back to what made me think of that was your comment that it's better to have that than nothing, but I'm not sure I agree really.
Actually, not really that. But I think it's mixed. It's just a story.
I think what you're saying is that for many people, it's because there's so little karuna, it's usually mixed with that dosa. So yeah, I think for most people that's going to be. So you're probably saying that you're happy for the little karuna that sometimes that arises in those moments.
I would like to give out a simple example that just happened almost every day. There's a lot of mosquito at my house, and I realized that it's definitely bad karma to do so, but it was so fast and it just bit me on the arms, and I suddenly snapped it without even processing what it was or anything, but something that is harming my body. I take it for my pain and everything. It's just so fast. So I would like to know why is it so fast and how to recognize it.
Seems so fast, but actually countless mind or processes and countless moments of dosa accumulating to condition that act of swatting And so no metta, no karuna, those moments. So all by conditions, anatta. But when one appreciates more about how all mice, all mosquitoes, all creatures would like to live just like us, then gradually there will be less thinking of harming, but it's just by conditions, just like the example of drinking or anything. It's just comes back to understanding. When it develops, there'll be less thinking of that kind of behavior. When I first knew Kunjit, who's in the other room, she used to swat all the mosquitoes at home, but through understanding now, the behaviors change completely. Yeah. And usually there's another way. It may take a little bit more care, like it may need some other systems to keep the mosquitoes at bay. But usually if one doesn't react or doesn't swat, then not much harm is caused. But it's just by conditions, not your dosa.
I think it's not about fast or slow. It's about understanding and know the danger, the level of understanding about the danger of killing, right?
Because the dosa has to be quite strong to act like that, yes, to harm. But it's conditioned, it's there. And the understanding has to be now when the dosa arises, or the doubt, or the seeing. And it'll happen again and again when the understanding's not firm enough, only if Sotapanna doesn't have any more thought of killing or harming.
Usually when we think about action that can be amount to be a kamapata that will give the result later, depends on the level of akusala that is there, right? But I'm thinking about, we know that killing is akusala kamapata, and speaking harsh words is also kamapata, akusala kamapata. But what about like beating people? It's not killing, but beating is also akusala chitta that harms others. And to me, the chitta that conditions that beating can be even stronger than the chitta that conditions hard speech.
Other kinds of karma, like supportive karma, it may not be the kamapata that can bring result, like by way of rebirth, but when other karmas bring that result, it can support. So very complicated, but it's not killing, but akusala for sure.
Action that will give result, right? Beating and all that, okay, it's not killing, but you still harm others, and there will be the is a karma and later give result. I mean, all dharma, all karma and all that, they're so complex. For us, is thinking is no point, because we're not gaining anything. We just understand, okay, do good in what you'll get, do bad and what you get.
Ajahn will say, are we forgetting about now? Are we forgetting about what appears now?
What about just beating, or say something like kill the person? speech and deeds.
Say someone killed the other person, it amounts to killing as well, if it's completed.
All about Cetana.
Yes.
So it produce karma is not depends on like its action or words. It just depends on the intention.
Intention and the other conditions, for example, for it to be killing, there has to be not just the intention, but there has to be the other being, there has to be the death of the other being. Like the bomber may have the intention to kill, but no conditions for any killing to take place. But the karma itself is the intention. We're going to stop in a few minutes at 4 o'clock. So does anyone at home have anything they would like to mention or bring up before we finish?
I have something. First of all, the discussions have been wonderful. But this might go on for longer than a couple of minutes. I was reading in the Abhidhamma Sangaha about bases, the compendium of bases, or what's it called, Vatu Sangaha. And it said that there's 10 out of the 12 agusala jittas that arise with independent of a base. So I'm presuming if it's independent of a base, it's got to be a rupa loka. But it surprised me that there's agusala jittas in a rupa loka. So what are those agusala jittas? I'm guessing it's probably like a Lopamula Jitta and Dosamula Jittas. I mean, that's all there is, because it says Dosamula Jitta cannot arise in that plane. So have I got that right? It doesn't say in the book what jittas they are. It just said 10 agusala jittas arise independent. Can be dependent on a base, or they can be independent of a base. So my question is, what actually are those jittas, the agusala jittas, that have no base?
So if the person is not an arahat in the Arupa Brahma realm, no Hadyawatu, no heart base, but still mana hasn't been eradicated, Loba hasn't eradicated. If not an anagami, then dosa hasn't been eradicated, moha hasn't been eradicated. So no dosa.
No dosa, yeah. It said in the book, no dosa can arise there. Yeah.
Wrong view, if not a sotapanna in a
Right.
Rupa realm.
Right. And then I thought, so people or beings that have ended up in Arupa Loka have developed very, very high levels of jhana. But after the gamma that caused the rebirth, the birth in Arupa Loka, when that gum runs out, they're just reborn back wherever. So then I thought maybe that's why when the Buddha went through all those prior teachers, or the teachers prior to his enlightenment, he realized this is not the way. So that's when he went off on his own. Maybe I'm carrying on a bit here.
Arupa Brahma cheetahs all the time, what there are Kamawatra cheetahs in between. That's why Lobha can arise, Mana can arise.
Okay. Okay. It actually surprised me that that happened, but not, I haven't given Arupa Loka much thought really, but yeah, in between Gusara, there's all that Akusala. Okay. So it's either Dosa Mula Jita or Moha Mula Jita.
I thought we said Lobha or Moha.
No, sorry, not Dosa, Lobha or Moha.
Yeah.
Moha.
Clinging to those experiences, clinging to the jhana,
Right.
clinging to existing, and ignorance of the truth.
Right. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Unless Ajahn would like to add in any more comments, I think we will finish.
About Arupa Brahma.
The discussion will be